The canyon was silent except for the crunch of boots against the rocky earth and the distant cries of birds startled into flight. Dawn was breaking, spilling pale light over jagged cliffs that rose like silent sentinels on either side. The SEAL team moved cautiously, their training guiding every step, every glance, every breath. Today's mission was critical. Intelligence had revealed a heavily armed enemy encampment hidden deep within this rugged terrain, and the SEALs had been tasked with taking it down before it could threaten their forward operations. Lieutenant Marcus Hayes led the team, his voice low and measured over the comms. Eyes sharp, keep it tight. Recon says enemy scouts are here somewhere. The team responded with quiet acknowledgement, every man focused, every weapon ready. But even seasoned warriors like Hayes couldn't anticipate the ambush that awaited. They had barely covered 100 meters when the first shot rang out. The crack was sudden, sharp, and precise. A hail of bullets erupted from the cliffs above, cutting through the air like angry hornets. The SEALs hit the ground, sliding behind. Boulders and jagged rocks, the metallic scent of gunpowder filling their nostrils. Bullets ricocheted, striking stones and sending up clouds of dust. The enemy had anticipated their approach. This wasn't a random attack. It was a meticulously planned trap. Corporal Jensen rolled to cover, shouting over the chaos. They've got us pinned. We can't move. The canyon echoed with gunfire and shouts, a deadly symphony of fear and violence. The SEALs returned fire where they could, but the narrow confines and exposed positions worked in the enemy's favor. Hayes assessed the situation rapidly. Some team members were wounded, their positions dangerously exposed, and the enemy's fire was relentless. Amid the chaos, she moved silently. A figure in muted tactical gear, crouched behind a large boulder at the canyon's edge, her rifle trained and steady. She had been tracking the team, anticipating where the fight would erupt, and now, as bullets shredded the earth around her, she observed with cold calculation. Her eyes, sharp and unflinching, swept the battlefield, every movement, every shadow, every potential threat analyzed and logged in her mind. She was the sniper assigned as overwatch for this mission, a lone guardian in the cliffs above, unseen, her presence unacknowledged by most of the team. Yet the SEALs would soon realize that her role was pivotal. Her task was not just to pick off the enemy, it was to change the course of the firefight, one precise, deadly shot at a time. Hayes barked orders, trying to reorganize the pinned team. Suppressing fire. Cover each other. Jensen, flank left, but stay low. Bullets ricocheted dangerously close as Jensen attempted to maneuver, his movements calculated but perilous. Every second was a battle for survival. The canyon walls, once silent and imposing, now felt alive with hostile intent, echoing with the staccato rhythm of automatic weapons and the occasional boom of explosives. She watched as an enemy fighter exposed himself momentarily while reloading. It was enough. She adjusted her scope, calculated distance and wind, and waited for the perfect moment. The SEAL's fate hung in the balance. One wrong move could be catastrophic. Around her, dust swirled in the early morning light, mixing with the smoke from gunfire. Her breathing slowed, a practiced rhythm that kept her mind clear. Patience was everything. One shot, one chance. That could be the difference between life and death for the team below. The enemy seemed confident, moving aggressively to exploit the SEAL's apparent vulnerability. They didn't know she was there. She was an invisible shadow in the rocky terrain, a ghost watching over the team. Her finger rested lightly on the on trigger, waiting, always waiting, until the first target stepped into view. Her mind ran through possibilities. What if the shot missed? What if another fighter saw her and returned fire? But hesitation was deadly. Hesitation would mean death for someone down there. Hayes could feel the panic creeping into his team. Stay calm. "Hold your positions," he shouted, voice firm but urgent. Behind him, Sergeant Morales tried to provide covering fire, but the bullets kept coming, relentless and precise. They were outgunned and outmaneuvered in this confined space. Survival meant improvisation, and right now, the key was that sniper above. She exhaled slowly. Every instinct, every ounce of training, was focused on the target. The enemy was skilled, well-trained, but their arrogance made them predictable. Her scope tracked the fighter's movements, calculating trajectory, wind, heart rate, and distance. Then, with a single clean squeeze of the trigger, the shot rang out. The enemy fighter went down, silently collapsing behind a jagged rock. For a heartbeat, everything seemed suspended, the canyon frozen in the aftermath of the shot. Then chaos erupted anew, as the remaining fighters realized they had been struck. Their fire became frantic, less coordinated. Below, the SEALs glanced around, stunned. "Did you see that?" Jensen muttered, awestruck, seeing the impact from their limited vantage. The tide was turning, but the battle was far from over. She didn't move, didn't celebrate. Another enemy appeared in the periphery, and she adjusted her aim without hesitation. The team below began to regroup slightly, emboldened by the sudden disruption in enemy fire. They began small maneuvers, pushing for cover, trying to escape the deadly crossfire. Every shot she fired gave them precious seconds, a lifeline in a fight that could easily have ended in disaster. Explosions echoed from the canyon walls, sending debris tumbling. Dust coated the SEALs' gear and burned their lungs. Hayes shouted again, rallying his team. "We need to move. Cover each other." The SEALs advanced cautiously, keeping low, following the rhythm of her shots. Each enemy downed by her rifle cleared the path forward, allowing the team to inch toward safety. Through the rising sun and the haze of smoke, she remained vigilant. Every movement mattered. Every life counted. She was the silent guardian, the unseen force that would tip the balance. Her calm, disciplined presence above the chaos was the thin line between survival and catastrophe for the SEALs trapped below. The canyon seemed endless, the ambush relentless, yet there was a rhythm now, a deadly dance of bullets and strategy. The SEALs were alive because she was there, unseen and unstoppable. One shot, one calculation at a time, she began to change the story of this battle, proving that sometimes the quietest soldier could carry the heaviest weight. By the time the sun climbed higher, the SEALs had managed to gain slight ground, thanks to her precision and vigilance. But the fight was far from over. The enemy had been shocked, disrupted, but they were not yet defeated. The canyon was a crucible, and the battle had only just begun. And as she adjusted her scope for the next target, the calm determination in her eyes told a single truth. She would not stop. Not until her team was safe. Not until the ambush had been beaten. The early morning light filtered through the jagged canyon walls, painting long shadows across the rocky terrain. The SEAL team had dug in wherever they could, using every boulder, ridge, and crevice as cover. Dust and smoke hung heavy in the air, mixing with the acrid scent of gunpowder. Around her, chaos still raged below, bullets cutting through the silence, ricocheting off stone, and sending vibrations up her spine. Yet atop her rocky perch, she was an island of calm, a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Her eyes scanned every movement, every twitch in the enemy lines. She had trained for years to see what others missed, to anticipate actions before they occurred. Now, the lives of her team depended on her ability to do exactly that. One wrong calculation, one misjudged angle, and the SEALs could be wiped out. The pressure was suffocating, but her breathing remained steady, methodical. In the chaos, she found focus. A group of enemy fighters moved along a narrow ridge, confident that they had the upper hand. They didn't know she was observing, calculating, and waiting. She traced their movements through the scope, noting subtle patterns, the way the fighter on the far left shifted his weight, the slight hesitation of another as he glanced around. Each observation was logged mentally, forming a precise mental map of the battlefield. She adjusted her rifle's scope, factoring in the canyon's wind currents, distance, and elevation changes. Every shot had to count. Every shot had to be lethal. Below, the SEALs were pinned, but starting to regroup, cautiously advancing from one cover to another. Hayes was barking orders, trying to maintain control. Suppressing fire on the left flank. Covering angles. Move slow, move low. His voice was firm, but anxiety laced it. They had trained for ambushes, for hostile territory, for chaos, but the sudden precision of the enemy fire had tested even their limits. She saw a sniper in the enemy ranks moving into position, his rifle trained on the team. He was skilled, deadly, and unaware of her presence. She didn't flinch. Instead, she calculated if she could neutralize that sniper first, it would remove the biggest immediate threat to her team. Her finger rested on the trigger, ready. Patience was her weapon. Timing was her ally. Her comms crackled faintly, the SEALs' voices overlapping in frantic chatter. "We can't hold them too many angles," Jensen shouted, ducking behind a jagged boulder. "We need cover. Move, move." The panic was palpable, but she thrived in this controlled chaos. She visualized the path of the bullet, the arc it would take, the impact point that would end the threat. This wasn't just shooting, it was chess at lethal speed. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The enemy moved methodically, confident, unaware that death was about to strike from above. She adjusted her scope again, noting the wind gusting unpredictably down the canyon. The calculations ran through her mind. Distance, wind, heart rate of the target, trajectory, gravity. Every element mattered. A misjudgment of even a few inches could cost lives. She exhaled, steadying her body, centering herself in the moment. Then, the first fighter she had identified, a tall man with a red band on his sleeve shifted position, exposing the side of his body. Her heart rate didn't spike. She had trained to eliminate adrenaline from her decision-making. The shot was perfect, calculated, deliberate, deadly. She squeezed the trigger, and the bullet ripped through the air with a muted whistle. The fighter dropped instantly. Silence stretched for a heartbeat, as if the canyon itself paused in acknowledgement. Then the chaos resumed, but now the enemy's confidence wavered. The other fighters glanced around, searching for the source of the unseen sniper. The tide had shifted, if only slightly, but it was enough. Below, Hayes noticed the impact, his voice carrying disbelief and hope over the comms. That was our sniper. Good hit. She didn't relax. Another fighter moved into the same ridge, trying to fill the gap left by the first. She adjusted, recalculated, factoring in the changing angle and wind shift. Her next shot would need to be precise. There would be no margin for error. She exhaled slowly, focusing on the target's rhythm, the subtle movement of his breathing, the twitch of his hand on the rifle. One shot, one life saved. Meanwhile, the SEALs were making slow progress, inching along the canyon floor, using her cover to advance. The enemy fire was less coordinated now, scattered, but still deadly. She had disrupted their formation, forced them to hesitate, and given her team the breathing space they desperately needed. Every second she held her ground, every shot she fired, shifted the balance further. She spotted another key target, a grenadier moving toward the team's flank. If he detonated his payload, the team could be wiped out. Her mind raced through calculations, distance, gravity, angle. She steadied her breathing and squeezed the trigger. Another shot, another enemy down, and the imminent threat neutralized. She felt a surge of quiet satisfaction, not triumph. There was no time for that. The battle was far from over. The enemy began to react more aggressively, realizing that something was amiss. They spread out, seeking cover, their formations disjointed. Yet even as they adapted, she remained several steps ahead. She anticipated movements, predicted routes, and placed herself where she could maximize impact while minimizing risk. Her rifle became an extension of her mind, every shot precise, every decision deliberate. Below, the SEALs began to communicate in short bursts, moving methodically under her guidance. Left flank clear, move up slowly. Hayes ordered, coordinating with the team. Her reconnaissance from above allowed them to push forward, inch by inch, using the temporary chaos she had created. Each shot she took created openings, opportunities, moments of advantage that the SEALs exploited with surgical precision. The enemy fired back, bullets tearing through rocks, kicking up dust in clouds. Explosions shook the canyon walls, and fragments rained down around her. She remained steady, eyes locked on the next target, calculating and recalculating. Every movement below informed her decisions above. Every target neutralized increased the chances of survival for her team. She was not just a sniper. She was the fulcrum on which this battle pivoted. Hours seemed to stretch, though only minutes had passed. The sun climbed higher, glinting off weapons and illuminating the battlefield. Her training and experience had honed her mind to the point where instinct and calculation were inseparable. Every second was a lifetime, every heartbeat measured, every shot deliberate. She had entered this mission as one of many, but in the unfolding chaos, she had become the difference between survival and annihilation. As the enemy began to falter, scattering and rethinking their positions, she adjusted for the next target. Her eyes scanned the canyon floor, the cliffs, every crevice. She was patient. She was precise. And she was deadly. Her first strikes had saved lives. The next could save them all. The SEALs, inspired by her unseen intervention, slowly regained their composure. They moved with purpose, supported by the silent guardian above, whose focus never wavered. She exhaled, centering herself for the next critical shot. She knew the enemy would adapt, would search, would hunt. But she had anticipated this, calculated every scenario, and prepared for every contingency. The first strike had been a success, but the battle was only beginning. One shot at a time, she would protect the team. One calculated decision at a time, she would tip the scales. She was ready. The first strike was complete, but the fight had just begun. The crack of her rifle echoed across the canyon, bouncing off jagged rocks, reverberating through the dust-filled air. The enemy fighter she had targeted collapsed behind a boulder, motionless. For a heartbeat, silence hung a suspended moment in the chaos of battle. Below, the SEALs froze, astonishment painted across their faces. They had been pinned, trapped under relentless fire, and yet a single precise shot had already begun to turn the tide. The impossible had become possible, and hope flickered amid the bullets and smoke. Lieutenant Hayes scanned the canyon floor, eyes widening in disbelief. Did someone just... He muttered over the combs, his voice laced with both relief and shock. "I think we've got cover," he shouted, rallying his team. Corporal Jensen, crouched behind a jagged boulder, raised his head just long enough to see the enemy fighter's body. That's impossible," he whispered, shaking his head. Then realization hit. They were being protected by an unseen hand, precise and lethal. The sniper remained silent, hidden in the cliffs above, her scope trained on the next target. She did not allow herself a moment of satisfaction. Every movement below was a calculation. Every decision could determine survival or death. She observed the enemy as they scrambled, confused, realizing their first casualty had come from an unexpected angle. Their movements became frantic, less coordinated, a predictable reaction she had anticipated. An enemy fighter exposed himself briefly while trying to assess the situation. Her eyes tracked him with meticulous care, measuring distance, calculating wind, and adjusting for elevation. Every detail mattered. With a controlled exhale, she squeezed the trigger. Another shot, another enemy down, and the balance of power began to shift. Below, the SEALs felt a surge of renewed energy. Jensen peeked over his cover, letting out a cautious smile. "We've got support. Someone's got our six," he muttered, nodding toward the cliffs. Hayes, reassessing the battlefield, realized the sniper's role was pivotal. "Keep moving. Covering fire on my mark. We advance now," he ordered, coordinating his team's cautious progression. The first kill had not only eliminated a direct threat, it had broken the enemy's morale and given the SEALs a fighting chance. The enemy scrambled to regroup, but the precision of her shots disrupted their efforts. They began to scatter, seeking cover where none was safe. She had already anticipated this movement. Her scope tracked their positions, and her fingers adjusted instinctively on the trigger. Every shot was deliberate, every life taken calculated to maximize survival for her team. An enemy grenadier, noticing the chaos, raised his weapon toward the SEAL's left flank. If he detonated, the team could lose multiple members in seconds. She exhaled slowly, visualizing the path of the bullet. Distance, wind, target movement, gravity, all factors she had to consider. With a single precise squeeze, the threat was neutralized. The grenade clattered harmlessly to the ground, and the immediate danger passed. Below, Hayes and his team's pace increased slightly, emboldened by the sniper's effectiveness. "Move left, stay low, stay tight," Hayes ordered, scanning for remaining enemy positions. They were still under fire, but now they had breathing space, and their confidence began to return. Every movement was a calculated risk, but one mitigated by the invisible force above, picking off enemy combatants with precision that seemed almost supernatural. Her presence was silent, but impactful. Every enemy eliminated created openings for the SEALs. Every second she held her ground allowed her team to advance, regroup, and push forward. She wasn't just providing cover fire, she was the fulcrum of the entire battlefield, a pivot on which survival rested. The canyon, once a trap, was slowly transforming into a controlled field of engagement, dictated by her lethal accuracy and unwavering focus. The enemy attempted a counterattack, moving aggressively to reclaim lost ground. Bullets whizzed past, ricocheting off rocks, kicking up clouds of dust around her perch. She remained calm, scanning, adjusting, calculating. One fighter moved along a ridge, another behind a boulder. She prioritized targets with precision, eliminating threats that could endanger the team below. Each shot was a lifeline, each target neutralized, a step closer to survival. Her role had evolved from sniper to battlefield strategist. She guided the SEALs with subtle signs, the timing of her shots, and careful observation. She picked off high-value targets, suppressing enemy movements, and giving the team the tactical advantage they desperately needed. Hayes realized that without her intervention, the mission might have ended in disaster. The SEALs' movements became more coordinated. Jensen provided covering fire while advancing toward the next boulder. Sergeant Morales shifted to flank a small group of enemy fighters, timing his attack with their suppression fire. The coordination was silent yet fluid, a dance of strategy, skill, and trust. Each movement below mirrored her control above. An enemy sniper attempted to reposition, aiming at the SEAL's forward line. She tracked him instantly, adjusting for the slight shift in angle and increased distance. With surgical precision, she fired. The sniper's rifle clattered to the ground, and the threat was eliminated. Hayes' jaw tightened in disbelief and relief. That sniper is something else, he muttered under his breath. The team now had a clear advantage, and morale surged. Despite the temporary calm, she knew the fight was far from over. Enemy reinforcements were likely nearby, and their desperation would only make them more dangerous. She scanned the canyon, noting clusters of movement, weak points, and exposed fighters. Every detail mattered. Every decision could save or cost lives. She had a responsibility not only to eliminate threats, but to protect the lives of the men and women below. The SEALs advanced cautiously, using the openings she created. Jensen spotted an enemy fighter attempting to move across open terrain. "We've got a visual," he shouted. The enemy was unaware of her observation. She tracked him, calculated the trajectory, and fired. Another enemy down. The SEALs moved forward again, inching closer to their objective, momentum growing with each precisely timed shot. She caught a glimpse of a small group of enemy fighters attempting to flank the SEALs from the right. They were moving too confidently, unaware of the sniper above. Her finger tightened on the trigger, her mind racing through angles, wind, distance, and bullet drop. With deliberate precision, she eliminated 2 fighters, forcing the rest to scatter. The balance had shifted entirely. The canyon echoed with the sounds of survival gunfire, shouted orders, and the occasional explosion of a misplaced grenade. Yet above it all, she remained calm, focused, and deadly. Every enemy neutralized was a step toward mission success. Every action reinforced the fragile hope that the SEALs could survive the ambush. Hayes assessed the situation, noting the change in the enemy's behavior. They were now scattered, disorganized, and hesitant, forced into defensive positions by a sniper they couldn't see. The SEALs pressed forward, gaining ground and confidence. One by one, they began to reclaim the initiative. As she adjusted for the next target, she allowed herself the tiniest moment of satisfaction, not for the lives she had taken, but for the lives she had protected. Each shot had immediate consequences below, giving the team the chance to advance, regroup, and fight back. Her role had been decisive. She had shifted the battlefield, and the first kill had set the stage for everything that would follow. The enemy's morale faltered. Their organized attack had crumbled under her precise fire. The SEALs, inspired by the unseen sniper's lethal presence, moved with renewed coordination and confidence. Hayes signaled his team to consolidate positions, take cover, and prepare for the next phase of the fight. She remained vigilant, knowing that the enemy was far from defeated. But for the first time, the team had a tangible advantage. The first kill had been more than a shot. It was a statement. It was the moment that turned fear into focus, chaos into strategy, and despair into determination. The SEALs were alive, and the battle was now theirs to influence, thanks to the calculated skill of the sniper above. She exhaled slowly, refocusing on the remaining threats. The battlefield had shifted, but the fight was far from over. The first kill had been impactful, but now the real challenge began, sustaining the advantage, protecting the team, and continuing the lethal precision that could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. She was ready. The canyon was alive with the sound of war shouts, ricocheting bullets, and explosions reverberating against the jagged cliffs. Dust swirled in the morning light, and smoke from gunfire created a haze that made every shadow a potential threat. Yet above the chaos, she remained a calm, unwavering presence, her rifle trained, her mind sharp. Every movement below informed her decisions above. Every shot she took was not just about eliminating the enemy. It was about orchestrating the survival of the SEALs pinned in the deadly canyon. Lieutenant Hayes had called for a brief pause behind a cluster of boulders. His team was bruised, breathing hard, adrenaline coursing through their veins. "We need to regroup and plan our next move," he said, glancing upward, half expecting reinforcement. Little did he know, The reinforcement had already arrived in the form of the sniper perched high above, unseen, silently dictating the battlefield. She scanned the canyon floor with a tactical eye, noting enemy movements, positions, and weaknesses. The enemy had scattered slightly, their morale shaken by the precision of her strikes, but they were far from defeated. A group of fighters attempted to flank the SEALs from the left, thinking the chaos below offered them an advantage. Her scope tracked their movement, and she relayed instructions over the comms in precise, measured tones. Hayes, left flank approaching ridge 5 o'clock. 2 fighters, moving fast. Cover them with suppressing fire. I'll neutralize the ridge, she said, voice calm but authoritative. The SEALs, still stunned by her first kills, quickly adapted. Jensen raised his rifle and began firing controlled bursts, keeping the approaching fighters pinned. Morales shifted to a better position, covering another angle. Her instructions were concise, but they carried weight. They were lifelines. The enemy on the ridge hesitated, uncertainty creeping into their movements. They had realized that someone was above them, guiding the fight with lethal precision. One fighter stepped into view, aiming at the SEALs, but she had anticipated this exact position. Her scope tracked his every movement, calculating distance, wind, and trajectory. With a smooth squeeze of the trigger, he fell, and the remaining fighters scattered. The SEALs advanced, using the opening she had created, every step more confident than the last. Hayes could hardly believe the efficiency with which the team was now moving. "We've got our advantage back," he muttered, eyes scanning upward, imagining the unseen sniper guiding them. He quickly adjusted his strategy. Push forward slowly. Stay low, cover each other. Move to the boulders on the far ridge. The SEALs obeyed, trusting the precision of the invisible hand protecting them from above. Every move below was synchronized with her guidance. She observed the flow of battle like a chess master, anticipating enemy strategies before they could act. Another group of fighters tried to regroup near the canyon floor, hoping to catch the SEALs off guard. She pinpointed their location, calculated the precise angle for her shot, and fired. One fell, another ducked for cover, and their momentum crumbled. The SEALs pressed forward, their path cleared, their morale bolstered. She shifted her focus to communication. Precision was only part of her role. The ability to coordinate the SEALs' movements was equally crucial. She gave concise updates on enemy locations, movement patterns, and threats that the team couldn't see. "Hayes, sniper at ridge 7 o'clock, moving toward your left flank. Don't expose yourself. Wait for my mark." The team adjusted instantly, their trust in her tactical guidance absolute. The battlefield became a symphony of coordinated actions. She controlled the tempo, determining when the SEALs advanced, when they paused, and when they opened fire. Each shot she fired created openings for the team, while her reconnaissance ensured they weren't walking into ambushes. The canyon, once a deadly trap, now became a controlled field of engagement. Every decision she made above had immediate consequences below. One SEAL, Private First Class Ramirez, spotted a fighter trying to crawl behind a boulder to flank the team. "Contact right flank. He's trying to get behind us," Ramirez shouted. She immediately calculated the trajectory, taking into account the new angle and elevation. With a single precise shot, the threat was neutralized. "Right flank clear," she confirmed over the comms, her calm tone steadying the team below. The SEALs moved forward, following her instructions to the letter. The enemy grew desperate. Their fire became erratic, less coordinated, reflecting the disruption caused by her deadly intervention. Another fighter attempted to charge across open terrain, hoping to reach a better position. Her scope tracked him instantly. Wind gusted unpredictably through the canyon, but she had anticipated this. Bullet trajectory, gravity, heart rate, all calculations ran through her mind. She fired. The enemy fell. The SEALs advanced. Again, her lethal precision dictated the flow of battle. As Hayes led his team forward, they began using the high ground strategically. Move in a wedge formation. Cover angles. Don't bunch up, he ordered. They communicated with her silently, following her marks and relying on her observations. Every sniper shot she took opened a corridor for them to move safely. Every observation she made gave the SEALs confidence to reclaim territory and stabilize their positions. Even as bullets tore through the canyon, she remained composed, adjusting her focus as the fight evolved. Another enemy sniper emerged, aiming to take down her team from a ridge across the canyon. She calculated the distance, the slope, and the wind, and fired. The sniper went down before he could even squeeze the trigger. The SEALs below gained ground, oblivious to the fact that their lives were being safeguarded by the calculated precision of someone they couldn't even see. Explosions rocked the canyon as grenades detonated near the enemy's position, forcing them further into defensive stances. She anticipated their retreat routes, picking off fighters trying to escape into safer terrain. Her instructions over the comms became more strategic, not just reactive. Clear the ridge above you. Move to Boulder 3. I've got 6 o'clock covered. Each command was precise, timely, and directly influenced the SEALs' survival. By mid-morning, the SEALs had regained significant ground. The enemy was scattered, disorganized, and demoralized. They were no longer coordinating attacks. Their confidence was shattered. The sniper above had turned a dire ambush into a battlefield she controlled with lethal accuracy. Hayes looked at his team, noticing their elevated morale and coordination. That sniper, she's keeping us alive, he muttered, awe in his voice. Yet she remained vigilant. She knew the fight was far from over. The enemy could regroup, reinforcements could arrive, and the terrain still held deadly surprises. Her role was not yet complete. She continued to scan, anticipate, and guide the SEALs, her scope trained on every potential threat. Every shot she fired was part of a larger strategy, every instruction over the comms a lifeline. Her connection with the team, though silent and invisible, was complete. The SEALs moved with confidence, their every step synchronized with her guidance. She had transformed from a sniper to a battlefield coordinator, orchestrating the team's survival. Her actions above directly influenced the SEALs below, allowing them to advance, reclaim ground, and stabilize their position in the canyon. The enemy's morale deteriorated further. Their formations were broken, their coordination gone. She targeted the remaining threats with precision, eliminating anyone attempting to mount a counterattack. Explosions, bullets, and chaos filled the canyon, but she remained the calm center, the eye of the storm. Her influence on the battlefield was undeniable. By noon, the SEALs had moved significantly forward, reclaiming the initiative. The unseen sniper above had not only protected them, but had also dictated the rhythm of the battle. Hayes knew that without her intervention, the team might not have survived the ambush. Her calculated guidance, lethal precision, and strategic oversight had turned a dire situation into an opportunity for survival and counterattack. As she scanned the canyon for the next target, she exhaled slowly, steadying herself. The battle was far from over, but her coordination with the SEALs had shifted the momentum in their favor. Every shot, every instruction, every observation had counted. She was no longer just a sniper, she was the team's eyes, their shield, and their guide through the deadly chaos of the canyon. The canyon, once a trap for the SEAL team, had been partially reclaimed, but the enemy was far from defeated. They had retreated momentarily, regrouping in hidden pockets among the jagged rocks, but their resolve was hardening. Their previous confidence had been shattered by the precision of the sniper above, but desperation fuels courage in unpredictable ways. Now, they were preparing a counterattack, their intent clear, overwhelm the SEALs before they could consolidate their positions. Lieutenant Hayes scanned the terrain, sensing the change in the enemy's demeanor. They're regrouping. Expect an assault from multiple angles, he warned. His team crouched low, weapons ready, eyes darting across the rocky landscape. Every muscle tensed. Every heartbeat resonated with the awareness that the next few minutes could determine survival or death. The canyon seemed to hold its breath, anticipating the impending clash. High above, she observed the enemy's movements with a sniper's clarity. They were no longer moving in isolated pockets, but coordinating a concentrated push. Machine gunners shifted positions, grenadiers prepared to launch, and fighters advanced under the cover of smoke and rocks. She calculated every variable: the slope, the wind, the distance, the trajectory of each potential shot. Precision was no longer a luxury. It was the only thing keeping the team alive. The first wave came suddenly. 3 enemy fighters surged along a narrow ridge, attempting to flank the SEALs from the left. Bullets tore through the air, ricocheting off rocks, and the team below ducked instinctively. Hayes barked orders. Suppressing fire. Hold your ground. He glanced at the cliffs above, knowing their advantage depended on the unseen sniper providing lethal cover. Her scope tracked the approaching fighters. The wind had shifted slightly, altering the bullet's trajectory. She adjusted with meticulous care, accounting for every variable. Her fingers squeezed the trigger, releasing a perfectly timed shot. One enemy fell, collapsing silently behind the ridge. Another paused, hesitated, only to be eliminated with the next precise round. The last of the trio dove for cover, but she had already predicted his escape route, firing a third shot that sent him sprawling. The SEALs seized the moment. Jensen advanced toward a boulder that offered better cover, suppressing the remaining enemy fire as Hayes coordinated the movement. The sniper's guidance was implicit but critical, her prior elimination of threats creating the openings necessary for the SEALs to maneuver safely. Below, the team's morale surged. Hope had returned, bolstered by her unseen intervention. The enemy was relentless, however. They realized that someone above them was dictating the battlefield. Smoke grenades were launched to obscure visibility, and fighters attempted to approach under the cover of jagged rocks. But she was patient, calculating, and ready. One fighter emerged, attempting to move closer to the SEAL's rear. She adjusted for the slope, wind, and distance, squeezing the trigger with lethal precision. The enemy fell before they could complete their advance. Hayes observed the battlefield shifting. Keep moving. Watch the ridges. We hold this ground, he commanded. The team pressed forward cautiously, moving in coordinated bursts from cover to cover. The sniper above was no longer just a force multiplier. She had become the invisible commander, orchestrating their survival. Each shot she fired dictated the team's tempo, every observation guiding their path. A machine gunner emerged from a rocky alcove, sweeping fire across the canyon floor. The SEALs froze, pinned momentarily. She tracked the weapon, calculating the angle, the velocity, and the distance. Her next shot would need to be perfect. With one squeeze, the rifle barked, and the machine gunner went down instantly. The canyon echoed with the sound, but this time, it carried a message. The SEALs were not alone, and any attempt to overwhelm them would be met with deadly precision. The enemy scrambled, reorganizing under the stress of her relentless targeting. They attempted to split their forces, hoping to create openings for attack. But she anticipated each movement, recalculating trajectories and predicting escape routes. Every potential threat was neutralized before it could fully materialize. The SEALs continued to advance, using the intervals she created to secure stronger positions. Sergeant Morale spotted a small group attempting to maneuver through the canyon's central corridor. 2 o'clock, moving fast. "They're trying to flank," he shouted. She adjusted her aim instantly, timing her shots perfectly to neutralize both threats. The group scattered, their momentum broken. Hayes signaled his team forward, confident that the sniper above had cleared the immediate danger. The balance had shifted. The counterattack was being crushed before it could gain full strength. The enemy, realizing their approach was being systematically dismantled, launched another wave, this time from a higher ridge across the canyon. They fired indiscriminately, attempting to force the SEALs back. But she had already observed their positions, factoring in bullet drop, wind, and the slope of the ridge. One by one, her rounds took down the advancing fighters. Explosions, gunfire, and dust filled the air, but she remained calm, unwavering, and deadly precise. Hayes' team moved in tighter coordination now. Hold the line. Watch the flanks. Advance slowly, he commanded. The sniper's guidance continued to dictate their actions, her observation points allowing the SEALs to anticipate threats before they arrived. Every eliminated enemy meant safer ground for her team. Every precision shot maintained the initiative they had barely clawed back from the ambush. She observed a grenadier attempting to throw a grenade toward the SEAL's new position. Timing was critical. She calculated the distance, the trajectory, and the delay of the fuse. One shot, one kill. The grenade fell harmlessly beside him as he collapsed to the canyon floor. Another wave of morale surged through the SEALs. Their survival depended on her relentless focus, her meticulous calculations, and her unwavering resolve. The canyon became a battlefield dictated by her precision and strategic insight. Enemy forces moved unpredictably under stress, their cohesion shattered. Every flanking attempt, every reckless advance was countered before it could threaten the SEALs. Her sniper rifle was not merely a weapon. It was a tool of tactical orchestration, dictating the flow of the battle with deadly accuracy. Amid the chaos, the SEALs found an opportunity. Jensen and Morales provided suppressive fire while Hayes directed their movements. They began to regain lost ground, clearing areas that had been deadly traps moments before. Her guidance ensured that each move was calculated, minimizing risk and maximizing the team's survival. She was the unseen hand controlling the battlefield, each shot providing critical openings for the team to exploit. The enemy, demoralized and disorganized, attempted to regroup once more. But the rhythm of her fire had set a pace they could not match. Machine gunners, riflemen, and grenadiers all were neutralized before they could coordinate effectively. The SEALs pressed forward, their momentum building, their confidence restored. The counterattack had been effectively broken, turned into a defensive scramble by a sniper they could neither see nor predict. High above, she continued to scan, ready for the next wave. She had become the fulcrum of the battle, balancing the SEALs' survival against the enemy's desperation. Every shot was deliberate, every observation critical, every decision a matter of life and death. The canyon, once a death trap, was now a controlled battlefield under her unseen command. As the sun climbed higher, the enemy's remaining forces began to falter. Their morale was broken, their movements erratic. The SEALs consolidated positions, advancing with renewed confidence and coordination. Hayes looked at his team, recognizing the critical role of the sniper above. "She's holding this fight for us," he muttered, awe in his voice. Every decision, every shot, every moment of calculated precision had preserved the lives of the men below. The enemy counterattack had failed. The SEALs, bolstered by her guidance, had survived the wave and begun to regain initiative. But the battle was not over. The canyon still held threats, and the enemies still lurked, plotting their next move. She remained focused, vigilant, and lethal, ready to protect the team with unwavering precision. One shot at a time, She was ensuring that the SEALs would live to see the next phase of the battle and perhaps emerge victorious. The sun was now high in the sky, casting sharp shadows across the jagged canyon. Dust and smoke lingered in the air, a tangible reminder of the chaos that had erupted hours earlier. The SEAL team, bruised and battle-worn, had clawed back from the brink of annihilation. Yet the enemy had not been fully neutralized. They were regrouping, desperate, and unpredictable. Every movement required vigilance. Every step carried risk. High above the canyon, she perched like a sentinel, scanning every ridge, boulder, and crevice. Her rifle rested against her shoulder, her eye pressed against the scope, mind calculating distances, angles, and trajectories. Every detail mattered: the direction of the wind, the slope of the ground, the slightest twitch of an enemy's movement. She was calm, focused, and deadly precise. The survival of the team below depended on her next decisions. Lieutenant Hayes signaled a halt. "We've regained some ground, but stay sharp. They're regrouping somewhere up there," he warned, scanning the cliffs that loomed above them. He could feel their presence pressing on his senses, the weight of responsibility for the team's lives heavy on his shoulders. "Ramirez, cover fire. Morales, hold the left. Jensen, eyes on 6 o'clock." Every order was executed with precision, yet the team relied on more than just their own skill. They relied on her unseen guidance from above. The enemy was bold now, attempting a coordinated push along the central canyon corridor. They moved as a unit, rifles raised, grenades at the ready. A single misstep could mean disaster. She studied their movements, calculating the optimal sequence to neutralize the threat while minimizing exposure to the SEALs below. Each second mattered. Each shot could save or cost lives. Her first target emerged from cover, a rifleman attempting to advance toward the SEAL's right flank. She adjusted her scope, factoring in the wind and distance, and squeezed the trigger. The enemy went down instantly, the shot clean and lethal. Another fighter hesitated behind a boulder, then moved to expose himself, unaware of the sniper above. One more round, one more precision kill. The team below moved with increased confidence, following her silent orchestration. Hayes noticed the effect immediately. "Their momentum's broken. Keep moving," he shouted, signaling the team to advance. Ramirez laid down suppressing fire, keeping the remaining enemy pinned. Morales covered the left flank, scanning for potential threats. Jensen moved carefully between boulders, trusting her precision shots to keep lethal threats at bay. Yet the enemy was relentless. A grenadier tried to lob a grenade into the SEAL's position, hoping to disrupt their advance. She anticipated the trajectory, calculated the delay of the fuse, and fired. The grenade fell harmlessly to the side, the fighter collapsing under her second shot. Hayes' team surged forward, using the openings she created to gain stronger positions along the canyon floor. The canyon echoed with the chaotic symphony of war gunfire. Explosions, shouted commands, and the occasional thud of bodies striking the rocky ground. She remained above it all, a silent force dictating the rhythm of the battle. Her mind analyzed every movement, predicting enemy strategies before they could be executed. Her rifle became an extension of her thought, each shot a precise statement in the deadly calculus of survival. Then a new threat emerged, a sniper attempting to outflank the SEALs from a ridge on the far side of the canyon. He had been unnoticed until now, moving stealthily with the intent of taking out a high-value target. She adjusted her scope quickly, tracking his movement and calculating the trajectory. Bullet drop, wind correction, elevation all accounted for. She fired. The sniper slumped, his rifle clattering to the rocks. One threat neutralized, another step toward safety for her team. The SEALs pressed forward, moving in tighter coordination. Hayes led, checking each boulder, signaling his team with concise hand gestures. Her guidance continued to be invisible, yet pivotal. Each enemy eliminated allowed the team to advance further, consolidating their position and regaining control of the canyon. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire erupted from the far ridge. Enemy fighters had regrouped, attempting a surprise assault with grenades and automatic fire. Hayes ducked behind a boulder, shouting orders. Suppressing fire now. Cover angles. Move fast. His voice carried urgency, but the team's morale remained intact, bolstered by the unseen sniper above, keeping lethal threats at bay. She recalculated, prioritizing targets based on the immediate threat to the SEALs. One fighter aimed directly at Jensen, preparing to fire. Her shot rang out first, eliminating him before he could squeeze the trigger. Another fighter attempted to throw a grenade, but she had already predicted the arc. Another perfect shot, and the explosive threat fell harmlessly to the canyon floor. Every action was deliberate, each kill calculated to protect lives. The team's momentum built again. Hayes led them toward a more defensible position, using the terrain strategically. Morales covered the left, Ramirez suppressed the enemy with precise bursts, and Jensen provided observation for additional threats. Above, she continued her deadly orchestration, controlling the battlefield one shot at a time. A new wave of grenadiers tried to approach from the canyon center, intending to disrupt the team's consolidation. She anticipated their path, firing sequentially to eliminate the first two before the third even realized they were under fire. Explosions echoed behind rocks, dust rose, and the canyon trembled, but her focus never wavered. Each shot was a lifeline, each target neutralized, a calculated decision to save lives. Hayes observed with growing respect. She's saving us. Every single move she's making is keeping us alive, he muttered under his breath, eyes scanning the cliffs where the sniper had dominated the battlefield unseen. The SEALs now moved as a coordinated unit, fully leveraging her lethal support. The enemy's morale continued to deteriorate. Scattered and demoralized, they attempted to fall back, regroup, and mount another assault, but she anticipated every retreat path, every hiding place. Every time an enemy tried to reposition, she neutralized the threat before it became critical. The SEALs advanced cautiously, reclaiming ground that had once been perilous. Bullets tore through the canyon, ricocheting dangerously close. A fighter attempted to flank the SEALs from a narrow ledge, firing at Morales. Her scope tracked the movement instantaneously. Another precise shot, another enemy neutralized. The team pressed forward, gaining control of the canyon piece by piece. Each opening she created allowed the SEALs to consolidate their positions and maintain initiative. Hours had passed, but she remained relentless. Her focus never wavered. Every shot was intentional, every observation tactical, every moment calculated. The SEAL's survival depended on her skill, patience, and unwavering commitment to precision. She was more than a sniper. She was a lifeline, a guardian perched above the chaos, dictating the battlefield with unmatched skill. Hayes signaled the team to secure the next ridge. We moved forward carefully, eyes sharp. Cover each other, he commanded. The SEALs advanced methodically, using the sniper's lethal guidance to mitigate risk. Enemy fighters attempted sporadic resistance, but her relentless targeting neutralized threats before they could endanger the team. By late afternoon, the SEALs had reclaimed most of the canyon. The enemy was fragmented, desperate, and unable to mount another organized counterattack. Hayes allowed himself a moment to breathe. We're holding it thanks to her, he said quietly, glancing up, imagining the sniper watching over them. Her heroics had transformed what could have been a disaster into a controlled battlefield where the team could survive and fight back. Yet she remained vigilant. She knew that a single lapse could undo everything, the enemy could still regroup. Reinforcements might arrive, and the terrain itself was treacherous. Her focus was absolute. Each shot she fired, each observation she relayed, ensured that the SEALs remained alive, coordinated, and ready for the next phase of engagement. The canyon, once a death trap, was now a controlled battlefield. Her heroics under fire had not only protected the SEALs, but had allowed them to reclaim ground, restore morale, and maintain strategic advantage. She had become the invisible force orchestrating every movement, every shot, and every defensive measure. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the canyon, she exhaled slowly, centering herself for whatever came next. The SEALs had survived the counterattack, and the battle had shifted in their favor, but she knew the fight was not over. The next phase would require the same lethal precision, unyielding focus, and unwavering courage that had carried them this far. And she was ready. The sun hung low over the canyon, casting elongated shadows across the jagged rocks and dust-choked terrain. Hours of relentless combat had drained the SEAL team physically and mentally, yet they pressed on, every muscle taut, every nerve alert. The enemy was scattered, their morale shattered, yet pockets of resistance remained. They had been battered by the unseen sniper above, but desperation gave them a dangerous unpredictability. Hayes knew the final push would be the decisive moment. It would either secure survival or unleash catastrophe. High above, she adjusted her position, scanning the ridges and slopes with a sniper's meticulous precision. Her rifle rested steady against her shoulder, scope trained on every shadow, every twitch of movement. The canyon was a labyrinth of danger, each corner a potential death trap, but she had spent hours reading the battlefield, anticipating every enemy move. Every shot had been a calculation, every decision a lifeline. Now, the culmination of her work would define the outcome. Hayes, she spoke over the comms, calm but commanding. Enemy consolidating at Ridge 9 o'clock. Approximately 10 fighters moving toward your left flank. Advancing slowly but coordinated. I suggest suppressive fire first, then movement to Boulder Cluster Charlie. I'll cover your approach. Hayes' voice crackled with intensity. Understood. Move as planned. Ramirez, Morales, cover fire. Jensen, eyes on the ridge. We advance on my mark. The SEALs obeyed instinctively, their movements synchronized, as if guided by an invisible hand. They knew the sniper above was no ordinary asset. She was the fulcrum holding their survival in balance. The first stage of the final push began. Ramirez laid down controlled suppressing fire, keeping enemy heads down, while Morales covered the advancing flank. Hayes led the team forward, every step deliberate, every movement calculated. The sniper above observed the enemy's reactions, predicting their movements and providing cover that ensured the SEALs could advance with minimal risk. The enemy had fortified positions near the canyon's far ridge, using boulders and jagged outcrops as makeshift cover. One misstep could spell disaster. Yet she had anticipated this. Her scope tracked every shift, every flicker of movement. A rifleman peeked over a boulder, intending to fire at the advancing SEALs. A single precise shot neutralized him before he could even squeeze the trigger. Another fighter attempted to flank the left side. Another shot, another casualty. The team pressed forward, using the openings she had created. Hayes motioned for the team to split briefly, creating overlapping fields of fire. Jensen, flank left. Ramirez, cover center. Morales, hold right. Move carefully and watch for grenadiers. Each movement was synchronized with the sniper's observations, forming a coordinated advance that forced the enemy into a defensive posture. The enemy, realizing their positions were compromised, attempted to counterattack. Grenadiers rushed from a cluster of rocks, hoping to dislodge the SEALs from their forward position. She adjusted her aim, calculating the trajectory and fused timing with military precision. One shot, one enemy down. Another shot neutralized the second threat. The grenades fell harmlessly, their explosive force neutralized by her precise intervention. Hayes' team surged forward, reclaiming critical ground. A fighter emerged from cover, attempting a last-ditch assault toward the center of the SEALs formation. Her scope tracked him, wind and slope accounted for. The shot rang true, another enemy eliminated before they could endanger the team. Every action below mirrored her lethal precision above. The SEALs had regained the initiative, the final push now dictated by her guidance and sharpshooting. Hayes signaled his team to consolidate positions near a prominent boulder cluster that offered both cover and a vantage point for the next phase. Hold this line. Suppressive fire ready. Move only on my mark. The SEALs positioned themselves, trusting the unseen sniper above to neutralize any threats they could not see. Above, she anticipated a sniper attempting to reposition on the far ridge, aiming at the SEALs' exposed positions. Adjusting for angle, wind, and distance, she fired a single lethal round. The threat was gone before it could materialize. The team below remained unaware of the danger that had been neutralized, moving forward confidently under her protection. The enemy launched sporadic attacks, trying to disrupt the SEALs' advance, but their morale was shattered. Every aggressive move was met with precise, calculated elimination. Riflemen, grenadiers, and machine gunners alike were systematically neutralized. The SEALs advanced steadily, pushing the remaining enemy back toward the canyon's exit points. Hayes noticed a critical opportunity. Jensen, Ramirez, flank the left ridge. Morales and I will cover center. Move fast, move low, and watch for ambushes. The SEALs advanced in perfect coordination, their actions dictated by the rhythm of the sniper's lethal fire. Every shot she took opened the path forward, each elimination of enemy combatants creating a safer corridor for the team. The final ridge loomed ahead, the site of the remaining enemy stronghold. A group of fighters attempted to establish defensive positions along its slope, preparing for what they believed would be the decisive engagement. She tracked their movements, predicting every step and calculating precise solutions. Bullet trajectories, angles, wind, elevation, all factors were accounted for in a rapid mental calculus. A grenadier emerged, attempting to launch a device at the SEALs center. She fired before he could complete his throw. The grenade clattered harmlessly, the threat neutralized. Another rifleman moved to cover the approach, and she eliminated him with a single perfect shot. Her precision created a domino effect. The enemy's remaining fighters panicked, cohesion lost, morale shattered completely. Hayes seized the opportunity. Advance. Push to the ridge. Move fast. The SEALs surged forward, using the openings created by the sniper's lethal precision. Explosions echoed as grenades detonated harmlessly around the enemy positions, their coordinated attacks now meaningless against the calculated destruction raining down from above. The final wave of enemy fighters attempted desperate maneuvers, hoping to turn the tide with sheer audacity. One machine gunner opened fire on the SEAL's right flank. She tracked him instantly, calculating the slope and distance, and eliminated him with a single round. Another fighter attempted to reach cover, but her calculation of movement and wind ensured another perfect shot. The remaining enemies faltered, their resistance crumbling under her relentless precision. Hayes' team pressed forward, reaching the ridge's summit. The SEALs moved with purpose, securing the high ground, consolidating positions, and finally gaining the decisive advantage. Below the sniper's unseen eye, the battlefield had shifted entirely. What had once been a deadly ambush now lay in controlled order, dictated by the lethal precision and strategic oversight of the unseen marksman above. The enemy, fragmented and demoralized, attempted a last retreat, but she anticipated every route, every possible escape, and neutralized key threats. The SEALs secured their positions, now fully in control of the canyon, and for the first time in hours, Hayes allowed himself a slow exhale of relief. Her scope remained trained, scanning for residual threats. The team below moved carefully, clearing any remaining fighters, their movements synchronized with the lethal guidance they had come to trust implicitly. Each action she had taken, from the first kill to the final push, had shaped the battlefield, ensured survival, and dictated the flow of combat with unmatched precision. By sunset, the canyon was silent, except for the occasional echo of falling rocks. The SEALs, bruised but alive, consolidated positions and secured the area. Hayes surveyed the battlefield, acknowledging the incredible role of the unseen sniper who had orchestrated the survival of his team. Her heroics, lethal precision, and unwavering focus had transformed what could have been disaster into victory. The final push had succeeded. The enemy was defeated, scattered, and unable to mount further resistance. The SEALs had reclaimed the initiative, their morale restored, and their lives preserved by a sniper whose presence had been both invisible and decisive. High above the canyon, she exhaled slowly, lowering her rifle just enough to survey the scene below. Her work was far from over, but the final push had been executed flawlessly. The SEALs had survived, the enemy defeated, and the canyon, once a death trap, was now a controlled battlefield, dictated by her lethal skill and strategic mind. The sun had begun its slow descent behind the canyon walls, casting long blood-red shadows across the jagged rocks. The once chaotic battlefield was now eerily quiet, the echo of gunfire replaced by the crackle of spent ammunition and the wind whispering through dust-laden air. The SEAL team, battered, bruised, and exhausted, finally allowed themselves a moment of stillness. They were alive. Against impossible odds, they had survived. The victory, however, belonged not just to them, but to the silent guardian above, whose lethal precision had dictated every crucial moment of the battle. Lieutenant Hayes surveyed the canyon floor with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. Every step forward, every position reclaimed, had been made possible by the sniper above, whose presence had been both invisible and decisive. "We did it? Because of her," he muttered under his breath. The team gathered near the largest boulder cluster, checking weapons, tending minor wounds, and finally allowing themselves to breathe after hours of near constant engagement. High above, perched on a cliff ledge, she remained vigilant, scope trained on the last known enemy positions. Even as the immediate danger passed, her mind calculated contingencies, analyzing terrain, enemy movement, and potential threats. She had fought not only to eliminate the enemy, but to orchestrate the survival of the SEALs below. Each precise shot had been a lifeline. Each calculated decision, a step toward ensuring their safety. The enemy, defeated, lay scattered and demoralized across the canyon, their morale shattered by relentless precision. Any semblance of organized counterattack had been broken, leaving only sporadic movement and retreat. The SEALs moved cautiously, clearing pockets of resistance, securing the terrain, and consolidating their victory. The canyon, once a trap, had been transformed into a testament to their resilience and the unseen sniper's mastery. Hayes finally called the team together. "Listen up," he said, voice steady but filled with reverence. "We survived because someone above us never faltered. Every threat we faced was neutralized before it could cost us. Every opening we had was because of her. We owe our lives to her precision, her skill, and her courage." He paused, scanning the cliffs above, imagining the sniper who had made all the difference. Ramirez, still catching his breath, nodded. "She was amazing. Every move she made saved us. We wouldn't have lasted without her." Morales tightened his grip on his rifle, exhaling slowly. "We never even saw her, but she was everywhere at once, covering us, watching angles we didn't even know existed. Hayes allowed a faint smile. That's what makes a great sniper: precision, patience, and courage under fire. Today she was more than that. She was our guardian. Even in the aftermath, her vigilance remained unbroken. She scanned the canyon one last time, noting scattered enemy fighters attempting to retreat. With calculated efficiency, she neutralized the final few threats, ensuring the SEAL's path to extraction was safe. Only then did she allow herself a moment to lower her rifle and take a deep breath. Hours of concentrated precision, decision-making, and unyielding focus had culminated in survival and victory. Hayes approached the base of the cliffs, speaking into the comms. "Sniper, do you copy? We need to consolidate and prepare for extraction." Her voice, calm yet commanding, responded over the comms. "Copy that, Lieutenant. Area secured. Proceed with consolidation." The relief in Hayes' voice was palpable. She had completed her mission flawlessly, orchestrating the SEAL's survival while maintaining deadly precision until the very last threat was neutralized. The SEALs began moving toward the designated extraction point, using the safe corridor she had created. Hayes led the way, ensuring that every step was measured, every movement covered, and every team member protected. The canyon, once a crucible of chaos and near certain death, now bore the mark of tactical mastery, coordinated entirely by her lethal oversight. As they neared the extraction zone, the team paused for a final check. Weapons were secured, communications verified, and positions cleared. Hayes looked at the cliffs above, voice quiet but resolute. "We wouldn't be walking out of here without you. Your skill, your precision. It saved us all." Silence followed for a moment, as if the canyon itself acknowledged the truth of his words. She exhaled slowly, voice calm. "Just doing my job, Lieutenant. The team's survival was my priority. You executed flawlessly below. My role was to ensure you had the opportunity to do so." Her humility contrasted sharply with the magnitude of her impact. The SEALs had faced impossible odds, and her lethal presence had been the linchpin in their survival. The helicopter arrived with the low thrum of rotors cutting through the canyon air. Dust swirled, catching the last light of the setting sun, casting golden streaks across the canyon floor. The team moved efficiently toward the landing zone, Hayes leading, the others following in tight formation. She provided cover from above one final time, scanning for threats, ensuring the extraction would proceed without incident. As the SEALs boarded the helicopter, Hayes allowed himself one last glance upward. He imagined her perched silently, rifle in hand, eyes scanning every angle, orchestrating the battlefield with surgical precision. "We owe you everything," he said quietly, a tone of deep respect in his voice. The team below shared the sentiment, each member silently acknowledging the sniper who had saved their lives in ways they could barely comprehend. The helicopter lifted off, dust swirling in the rotor wash, carrying the SEALs away from the canyon that had been both a battlefield and a crucible of survival. She remained perched for a moment, ensuring the area was clear, then descended carefully toward the extraction point. Her mission complete, her precision had turned near certain death into victory. She had been the invisible force that had held the line, orchestrated survival, and ensured the SEALs could continue their mission another day. As the canyon receded beneath the helicopter, she allowed herself a rare smile. Hours of lethal focus, unbroken vigilance, and calculated precision had culminated in success. Lives had been saved, a mission had been preserved, and a team of warriors had survived against overwhelming odds, all because of her unwavering skill and courage under fire. In the debriefing that followed, Hayes recounted every moment of the battle, emphasizing her contributions at every turn. Every shot she took, every calculation, every instruction kept us alive. She transformed chaos into strategy and fear into confidence. She is not just a sniper, she is a guardian, a leader, and a force multiplier in the truest sense. The team nodded in agreement, their respect and admiration for her evident in every gesture, every expression. She remained humble, deflecting praise with quiet acknowledgement. I did what was necessary. The team's skill below and coordination above were what allowed us to survive. I simply ensured the odds were in our favor. Her words belied the monumental impact of her actions. She had faced chaos, violence, and near impossible odds, and emerged not only alive but victorious, ensuring the survival of those she had sworn to protect. As night fell over the canyon, the SEALs rested, their extraction complete, the battlefield secured. The story of survival, precision, and heroism would be recounted countless times, yet the sniper above remained unseen, her role known only to those who had lived through the ambush. She had turned a deadly trap into a controlled battlefield, orchestrating every shot, every movement, and every strategic decision with unmatched skill. Her heroics under fire would not be forgotten, for they had transformed the course of the battle, ensured survival against overwhelming odds, and demonstrated the profound impact of precision, patience, and courage. In the end, the canyon had witnessed not just a fight, but the mastery of a warrior whose skill had saved lives and turned chaos into victory. As the last light faded and the canyon settled into silence, she exhaled one final time, rifle at rest. The mission was complete, the SEALs alive, and the enemy defeated. She had been the invisible hand guiding the battle, the unseen guardian dictating survival with every precise shot. The canyon would never forget, and neither would those whose lives she had saved.